in here. Look at that. It is wonderful. Oh, they're so pretty. Ooh, looks scrumptious. Hey everybody, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera Show. You know, spring is in the air and there's nothing like a bake sale. I know on the weekends, if I hear there's a bake sale going on, I am all in. And I'm sure you feel the same way. So today I'm going to share 3 recipes that you can either make if you're participating in a bake sale, or you might want to suggest if someone's having one. So we're going to start today with a buttermilk coconut pie. This was my grandmother's recipe, so nostalgic to me, and it also uses fresh coconut. Then we're going to move into a praline poke cake. This is a Tony Chachere's recipe, and it's going to show you that it's not all about savory when it comes to Tony Chachere's. And then finally, the peanut butter pound cake, right out of the VeryVera cookbook. It was the July cake of the month. It is scrumptious. And in Vera's Corner today, as long as we're baking, why don't we do Flour 101? So I'm excited. Let's get in the kitchen and get started on that buttermilk coconut pie. Come on. I'm so excited about this recipe. This buttermilk coconut pie really takes me back to my childhood. And you know, over here I've got the coconut that I remember my grandmother getting a hammer out of my granddaddy's toolbox and knocking that coconut on the back porch steps. And you know, essentially all you're gonna do is take some of the insides and you just grate it with your stand-up grater, and then you've got this fabulous fresh coconut to use in this recipe. So I highly recommend that you either do that or you can buy the fresh in a can where all your other baking ingredients are at the grocery store. So there are a couple of things that we have to do in advance. I'm gonna preheat my oven to 350, and then you have all of your ingredients out at room temperature. And you know, I always knew my grandmother was gonna bake something because she would actually do all of this part early in the morning, so I knew something was coming. All right, and then we're gonna use what she could not use when she used to make this pie, and that is a pre-made pie crust. 2 of these come to the box. I've got my single depth pie pan, and you're just gonna lay this in the pie pan. And you know, when you're making a pie that the filling is so amazing, nobody's really gonna know that you didn't make this pie crust from scratch. So once you've got it evenly distributed, then let's get close here and let me show you how to crimp these edges. So you're taking these 2 fingers and your pointy finger, and you're just making the little crimp all the way around. And once you've got this done, it's going to be really easy to just go back through and push that down just a little bit. So you're probably wondering why I've got this aluminum foil under my baking sheet. Well, first of all, don't ever make a pie that you don't have some sort of baking sheet that's going to sit on, because you never know when the filling might overflow. But this foil will help if this crust starts getting too brown, that you can push it down and pull that up and fan it. All right, so I've got my granulated sugar in the bowl. Now I'm gonna add in my flour, my melted butter, and this is easy to do right there in the microwave, right at the last minute. My beaten eggs, and then the buttermilk. And I might say that this is probably the only thing I love buttermilk in, other than brining chicken. My mother used to actually drink buttermilk. I never understood it. All right, then vanilla. And this is just my favorite utensil, is my OXO spatula. You can cook with it, you can mix with it, you can get things out of pans with it. It never changes, and the handle is awesome in your hand. Right, so I'm beating that together really well. And then I'm gonna add in this fresh coconut. And honestly, there's a difference. And that's what makes this pie so amazing. All right, so before I pour this in the shell, let me show you this little trick. So over here, you just want to take your hands and push that all the way down in the pie shell. I'm going to pour this in, and when we come back from the break, we're going to get started on the Tony Chachere's poke cake, which is a sweet thing with a savory ingredient. So come back with me in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody. That buttermilk coconut pie is smelling great. But guess what else is smelling great? This poke cake. Woo! That looks amazing. Okay, so in order for me to walk you through this recipe correctly, we had to make one in advance. We will make the batter, but this one has to cool for just a few minutes so we can actually poke it and put this fantastic glaze inside of it. All right, so let's walk through this recipe. This uses Tony Chachere's Praline honey ham marinade. And you know, you just immediately think of them with the Creole seasoning that they're so noted for, but there's so many other products. So I encourage you to go to their website because you can get extremely creative maybe with the recipe that you already have using one of their ingredients to kind of switch it up. So that's what we're doing today. All right, so we have got butter pecan cake mix. So yes, I'm using a cake mix today, but butter pecan, I mean, just the aroma of this cake mix is fantastic. All right, so we have prepared a pan just like this one is prepared here with aluminum foil, and I've sprayed it. So now to this cake mix, I'm gonna add in my honey praline ham marinade, beaten eggs, and this is such, you know, it's a quick and easy recipe, a lot of fun to do, and then whole milk. And you don't even have to get the mixer out. So sometimes it's nice just to have a box of cake mix in the pantry if you have to throw something together pretty quickly. So this is just a quick mix on this. And again, all ingredients at room temperature when you're baking. You know, when I decided to major in home economics at the University of Georgia, and I thought it was gonna be so easy because I love to cook and I had to take chemistry, I thought, oh my goodness, I'll never get out of this class. But now I've found out through my love of baking that chemistry is extremely important to successful baking. And this is going to go into a 325-degree oven. And honestly, that butter pecan cake mix, if you've never even made that before, I recommend that as well. It's scrumptious. All right, so let's get this popped in the oven. And we'll get started on the poke part, which is fun. So you can either do this as an entire sheet pan, or you can individually plate it, which is what we're gonna do today for the bake sale. So to this big sheet pan, I'm going to get 12 squares. So 4 this way and 3 this way. So go ahead and score it first, and maybe this is where the home ec teacher in me comes out, because I always feel like you've got to make your marks before you start cutting. And I'm just using a serrated knife to make it easy here. And then I know y'all are probably wondering, I always seem to remember some of my favorite old-time utensils, and this is a wooden spoon that I actually painted, I believe, when I was in middle school. But this is what we're going to use to poke. So we're going to put 1 hole down in the middle of each one of those squares. Now, I know my grandchildren love to do stuff like this with me, so I encourage you to look for those recipes that you can get a young person involved with you in the kitchen. The boys love to cook, love to do this. We enjoy that at camp. So now I've got the same marinade again, and we're gonna just pour that in each of those little holes. And you know, this is one of those old-timey recipes that you use to pour stuff into it to make it moister. Well, this actually is a very moist cake anyway, but it really is scrumptious with this sauce in it. All right, so once you've gotten this completely, all of those little cavities filled up, then I've got my condensed milk, and I'm going to add into that more of the same praline honey ham, and I'll be pouring that over the top and garnishing it. So I'll finish that during the break. In Vera's Corner today, I'm going to go over the different types of flour, and then we'll get started on the peanut butter pound cake that's in my cookbook. So I'll keep getting busy here, and you come back with me in just a few minutes. Vera's Corner is brought to you by TaxSlayer. Baking is the art of turning flour into food. Today I'm going to show you the distinction in each so you can make the right choice. All-purpose flour is the most commonly used flour in home baking. With a moderate protein content, it's the most versatile of flours, able to produce pie crust, bread, cookies, and more. Self-rising flour is flour that has had baking powder and salt added during milling. Self-rising flour is generally made from low-protein wheat, traditionally grown in the South. It's best for tender biscuits, muffins, pancakes, and some cakes. Cake flour is one of the softest varieties with a very low protein content. This makes cake flour ideal for tender baked goods such as cakes, of course, but also biscuits, muffins, and scones. Bread flour is the strongest of all flours, providing the most structural support. The extra protein makes for better volume, a chewier crumb, and a browner crust. White Lily flour is not just a brand, but a specific variety of flour. It uses only soft winter wheat, which has an especially low protein content. This makes White Lily light and silky, which makes for lighter, fluffier biscuits. Next time you bake, you'll know exactly the flour to use. Start free today at TaxSlayer.com. Welcome back, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed those Vera's Corner tips today. You know, I love baking. When people ask me what's my favorite medium in the kitchen, it's always going to be this. There's something almost therapeutic to me about getting this batter going, getting familiar with the batter. So I love going over the tips that I think make our pound cake recipes very unique. So during the break, I got the room temperature butter creamed. I added my sugar in very slowly, then the peanut butter that goes into this particular recipe. Then set your timer for 20 minutes and just let that go. But use that time wisely as that creams together. So this is just at that point right now. So I'm going to turn the mixer off, and I want to scrape down my sides. And just look at the fluffiness of that batter. And that's incorporating all that air. As I said, the chemistry to the room temperature ingredients and the accurate measurement of time instead of just saying cream it until it's fluffy. Gives you a little bit more definition on what that is. All right, so now I'm going to add in my room temperature eggs one at a time. And this is where I like to go ahead and have them cracked and use a measuring cup and just let them mix around really good before you add the next one in. You know, when I started my catering business back in 1984, the way I really got started was that I always had all the ingredients in my kitchen to make a pound cake. And people would just call me to make a pound cake. And I didn't charge very much back in those days, but I figured I had the ingredients, the children were taking a nap, and I would just use that time wisely. All right, so now I'm going to start with the dry ingredients. I have my cake flour and my salt. And I'm just going to add this in 1 scoop at a time, alternating between my flour and the heavy cream. So this is one of the ingredients that you might not readily have on hand in your refrigerator, heavy cream. I generally have half and half in my refrigerator at all times. but heavy cream has a really long shelf life. So if you thought baking might be something that you might like to experiment with or start doing, I would recommend just having the heavy cream in the refrigerator. So as you do this, you can just see it mixing together really well. Okay, I'm going to add in my vanilla. Make sure you take that spatula and get every bit of that cream out of that measuring cup. That's almost a teaspoonful right there I would have left in the cup. All right, turn it up just a little bit just to incorporate it. And I've already sprayed my Nordic Ware butt pan, and this is a 12 cup size with the Baker's Joy. All right, so let's get the beater wiped off, and then we'll add in the Reese's peanut butter chips. And just make sure you go evenly down to the bottom with the fold to make sure that they're evenly distributed in the batter. All right, so once you've got it all in the pan, just evenly distribute with your spatula. Wipe off the edges of your pan, and then we just want to knock it on the counter a couple of times. And this is going to go into a 325-degree oven for 1 hour and 20 minutes. Once it comes out of the oven, you're going to let it rest in the pan for about 10 minutes, and then we've got a fabulous glaze that goes on top. All right, so I'll get all of this done, and then we'll get everything ready for the bake sale presentation, and let's see who's going to win that blue ribbon today. All right, so come back with me after the break. Okay, welcome back everybody. It is a beautiful spring day in Augusta, Georgia, and I am so excited to share with you our display for the bake sale. You know, baking is so much a part of our brand, and just being able to do this today brings me back to my roots of being a caterer, participating in all kinds of things like this in our community, but I hope I'm going to give you some interest in maybe thinking of ways that you can make money either for a charitable event or for your church organization to put together a bake sale and make it look like a country fair. Have ribbons, do a contest. You know, people love a challenge. So we have certainly taken the challenge today to make our bake sale look better than ever. So let's walk through the things that we did today. We started with the buttermilk coconut pie. And you know, this really brings me back to my roots with my grandmother and the fact that she showed me for the very first time how to crack that coconut and grate the coconut. And I highly recommend that you use either the fresh or the fresh canned coconut to make this pie. But you know, it's so nostalgic. So when you do things that people will remind them of their grandmother or back in the day, you can really put a big price on that because you can't buy that anymore. That's a good one. And then we did the poke cake, the praline poke cake. And you know, we've got ribbons today, and guess who took first place? The Tony Satchery's recipe for the praline poke cake. And we decided to do that as individual units because this is a very rich cake. We could cut a lot of pieces. We got 12 slices out of this sheet pan. So we've individually sliced it so people can just come pick up just an individual piece. So this recipe is really delicious, and we encourage you to go to their website and look at the other desserts that they made. They took first place. And then finally, the peanut butter pound cake. This is so much a part of our brand. All of the pound cake recipes are good, but this was the July cake of the month. Loaded with peanut butter, the peanut butter chips. It has a great glaze that goes on top, and it just looks beautiful displayed like this. So here we've just got a plastic cake tote, but we've covered it with cellophane, put a ribbon on it, and it just looks amazing here. So again, your presentation can get another $1 maybe added to that price. So when you're working with your children to talk to them about entrepreneurship and maybe having that lemonade stand this summer with a bake sale next to it, hopefully you've got a bunch of ideas today, like the trail mix. This is what we do in the summer with our children for camp. All kinds of things can go into that. The children can individually wrap it, put it in a big basket. We've got cookies, we've got quick breads, cupcakes, all kinds of things. So as you think about the summer and ways to get encouraged for fall, for fundraisers for your organizations, I hope you'll keep in mind a bake sale. Use some of these recipes. All of our recipes are on our website at VeryVera.com. And as I always say on the Very Vera Show, no matter what you do it in good taste. We've got a lot of great taste today, and I hope you'll come back and join me again next week.